this is Carlos of 9 Home Worlds, and in this video we will be doing a simple basket weave Kolrosing design on a wooden spoon. I will take you through materials, tools. I will show you how to draw a basket weave on paper. I will show you how to draw a basket weave on a wooden spoon, and I will take you through the steps of Kolrosing and finishing the design. So let's get to it. So for inspiration, I'll show you some spoons that I've finished with different styles of basket weaves. This one has a border with a mountain landscape and a leaf. You can see the weave actually is a lot thinner compared to this one, which is a lot thicker. This one has milk paint. One I just finished today. Another example. The design we will be doing today will be a simplified version of this. So let's get into drawing it on paper. Okay, so all we need to practice the basket weave is a pencil. I prefer mechanical because it's nice and fine. I don't need to sharpen it. A ruler for symmetry's sake, although not 100% needed because you can draw it freehand. And a piece of paper. So the basket weave, of course, mimics a weave that you would see on a basket where the fibers weave over one another. So we just have to mimic what that looks like in drawing form. Now you would do it on a spoon surface, so it's quite narrow. And for the sake of showing you how the actual design works, I will attempt to just draw a crude grid pattern, and then we will actually demonstrate how the weave works. So I know I have a ruler, but let's just go freehand. So now that we have our grid pattern, I'll show you how I map it out on my spoons. There will always be a diamond pattern every other square. Easiest way that I have found is to map it out like this. There we go. And the weave will actually go 3 squares by 3 squares. And the 3 squares will intersect 3 more squares going that way. So as I continue, you'll be able to see how it weaves over each other. Just like that. So now, when it comes to Kolrosing, we can see how our pattern will work. This becomes a square, and this becomes a square. And these in-between spaces are the negative space where there is no weave. And these 3 block rectangles would be the actual wicker. So if we erase the lines which guided us, and some of the dots, you can start to get an idea of how it will actually look. And to mimic grain, you can add a little bit of texture, like so. And it makes it look a little bit more like natural material with the fibers flowing over one another in a single direction. This way, and then back this way. Just like this. For the negative spaces in between, you only have a little bit of space to work with, so you can actually just leave it as dots. I like to put lines on my spoons, as you saw from the demonstration, and something like that. A little crude, but you get the idea. So 3 squares up and then 3 squares intersecting. We're always going to leave negative squares in between the weave, and I use those to guide me. And I draw lines so that I don't mess up, because when you actually have the Kolrosing knife, it's easy to sometimes forget, especially when you're starting out. And there's nothing more frustrating for me when I Kolrose the wrong area, because although others may not see it, it's all that I can see when I lift up a spoon. So using this one as an example, it would be running that way. Just like that. So I have a wooden spoon. Let's draw a pattern on it and Kolrose it. So here's the wooden spoon I'll be putting a design on. It's a maple wood eating spoon, and maple is particularly excellent to Kolrose because it's nice and dense, and if it's too soft, the knife will go too deep. So you can actually make pretty intricate designs with maple because of its density. It's quite hard. And it's also plain white, so the design will pop a lot more. We'll be having the design right here, and we'll leave the rest of it alone. Although when it comes to Kolrosing, you can put it anywhere that you want. I've put plenty of designs inside of bowls, and it's withstood the test of time and much usage, much scrubbing, washing, and usage. So the Kolrosing design will last. So I've zoomed in a little just so we can see it better. When I Kolrose, typically I hunch right over it with a light, right up close. And since I'll be doing this under a camera so that you can see what I'm doing better, it might be a little bit awkward. Hopefully I don't make any mistakes. So we're going to draw a border first. And to do that, we'll use our finger as a gauge, and we'll brace the finger up against the edge. And then we'll just trace down like this. I'll definitely need to fix that. One seems to be a little bit wider on one side, so bear with me. Also, I found if you erase down grain, sometimes it seems to stain it a lot more. We'll switch positions and see if that helps. Different position now. That's a lot better. Try to stay comfy as possible when Kolrosing. It can take a long time and it's tedious, and there's some pressure considering if you mess up, you mess up your piece. However, it's all part of the learning process. So I've erased all the lines, but you can still see the pencil marks. But don't worry, because in the finishing stage, when we oil it and rub it with coffee, that actually acts as an abrasive and it gets rid of the pencil marks without any issue usually. So we'll attempt to draw that border again. A little bit better. Hopefully we saw that on camera properly. There we go. Adjust the light. There we go. See if that's a bit better. Let's try a different height as well. Okay, so we have our border crudely drawn, but drawn nonetheless. These are just guiding lines. Your knife will sometimes draw straighter than your pencil marks. That's the main thing. So, I mentioned a ruler before. We're going to abandon that, and I'll show you how to do it with a simple business card. I'll hold it the right way so that you can see it's my business card. So the first thing when drawing a basket weave, since it has to be a grid and it must be somewhat symmetrical, we need to draw a center line to follow to make the rest of our grid pattern. The way I do that is by eyeballing it out. You can of course measure it with a ruler, but I don't find that to be necessary. It takes enough time. Kolrosing does not have to be exact. So once we have some center dots drawn, we'll just line up our business card. And this doesn't even have to be done with a ruler or a straight edge. You can eye that out as well. Hopefully that is somewhat straight. Yeah, it's more off to the side, so I'll just make some adjustments by hand. Thicken it up a little bit. That's perfectly fine. Okay. And now to draw the actual grid, what I do is use the corner and I'm going to eyeball it out. We're going to draw a wedge or a pointed, what do you want to call this? Triangle without a bottom, sure. Just like that. So you have an arrow on top. And now, all I will do is I'll find that angle, if I could see it from my awkward vantage, and I will drag it down a little, like so. I usually do like to start at the corner. And then, keeping that same angle, I'm gonna just keep working my way down. So you can use a business card for this, or you can go completely free-handed. There we have one side. Now let's meet it on the other. Now this part's important. It's hard to match the exact angle on the other side, especially when you're freehanding it. So what I like to do is use the other lines as reference, and I always want to cross the middle part where the other one exists, and I try to meet the other one on the other side usually, but it's not as important. What's most important is meeting that line in the center. So right here, you can just mark it in the center and then work your way over to the edge. It's good doing some free-handed. It won't look as, well, you should never use the word perfect when making something by hand, but straight and symmetrical. But that's perfectly fine. It'll look great when we're done. Okay. I think we're looking okay. So now that we have our grid pattern, let's go ahead and mark out where the actual weave will go. So just like on the paper, I'll start by drawing the dots, which are 1, 2, 3 apart. 3. There we go. This one's very off. Let me fix that. We want these to line up in the middle. I'm checking to make sure you can see me in the camera. Yeah, this one's way off as well. Let's just fix those. Okay. Pretty good. There we go. So now that we have our dots, let's just make them a little bit more pronounced for the video so that you can see where everything is going to go. So we have those mapped out. Not the prettiest, but it's gonna get the job done. So let's map out where the weaves go. 1, 2, 3 this way, and 1, 2, 3 that way, which goes off the border. 1, 2, 3 down that way, that way, across, that way. These lines will really help us. It is super easy to mess up your design, and that's a heartbreaker because it takes so long sometimes to carve a spoon. So we have those mapped out. Let's grab our Kolrosing knife. So for this stage, it's very important that you have a good view at what you're doing. I am now sitting down at my desk with the light angled directly on it. So I have an LED light that clips directly to my desk, and I'm able to switch the position of it and aim it right where I need it to be. I also have my Kolrosing knife. This is made by Dell Stubbs. I've been using it for about 4 years straight, and it's a real beauty. You can hold it like a pen, and it never needs to be sharpened or stropped. All we want is that tip. I have a folded rag, folded hand towel. I use that to balance my piece on so that I don't scuff my piece on a table, and I can fold it if I need to prop it up or something like this. I always use that. You can also hold it, of course, but then you don't want to be bracing the spoon on the table or something like that. If you were just bushcrafting, sitting somewhere outside, then I would just hold it free-handed like this and brace the bowl probably on my thigh. So I'll start by using my Kolrosing knife on the border itself, and if the camera angle isn't working out, I will do my best to notice and switch it up. So I'm going to brace it firmly in my offhand, and I hold it just like a calligraphy pen in my right, and I usually brace the side of it against my ring finger. And I can use my pinky as a brace to hold and control, and I can also use my thumb as a stopper. I'll just put it right here against the back, and I'll make sure that I have a lot of control. Those are all things that you learn over time. I don't really think about as I do it. I also use my pinky to brace against the table or the cloth. So when Kolrosing, you want to make sure that your knife is coming down at a almost 90-degree angle, and I really want you to be able to see it, so I'll try to adjust the camera. So I have the camera a little bit higher so that you can get a better view of what I'm doing. Keeping the knife at a 90-degree angle helps me make curves better, helps with overall accuracy. If I'm sloping too much this way, the fat part of the knife over here will inadvertently make marks in the wooden surface. So to greatly help with accuracy, keeping it at a 90-degree angle allows me to just engage the very tip of the blade inside of the wooden fibers and helps me follow that pencil line a lot better. So I'm going to take it across the top, which is going across the wood grain, which is a lot different than going with the wood grain. When you're going with the wood grain, the tip of the knife will want to follow the grain. So you always have to be cautious of that and conscious of that fact. So enough of my talking. Let's go ahead and begin with some knife work. I'm going to brace the piece firmly in my left hand. Sometimes I'll slip it in between my fingers, and a lot of the times I'll just brace it firmly like this. So the first cut is going to be right across the top, and keeping it at a 90-degree angle, inserting the tip at the very corner. You need to press firmly because later on you want the oil to penetrate. So as you can see, my thumb stopped it exactly where it needed to stop. Now we're going to do the same thing for the bottom part. Now that that's done, I will join both corners, starting with the right side. You can feel where the corner starts, and you'll just put your knife there. Keeping the knife at a 90-degree angle is easier said than done sometimes, but try to be mindful of it. Sometimes a slow crawl like this is also a great idea, because when you do it in one long stroke, it's very easy for it to just follow the wood grain and go wherever it wants to go. Using my thumb to brace, I will try to find that other point and join the two. Pretty good. Now for the final line. I'll have to clean that up with a slide knife later. It's a little bit rough. Alright, finding that corner, I'm going to take it little by little. Since the pencil line is a little fat, I want to stay somewhere in the middle of it. Making sure you can see this on camera. Alright. Here we are. Pretty good. Alright, border's done, and if you shine it in your light left and right, you can see where the knife marks are. So let's do our lines now for the basket weave itself. Starting here at this top weave, we'll do it just like the border, bring it down 3 squares, and stop at our thumb. Other side, and stop at our thumb. At this point, for the sake of accuracy, you don't want to make too many mistakes, or any mistakes rather. Try to complete everything and work your way down. Another option is to keep everything consistent and straight at the same angle, I can work down and get all of these at once. So you're coming all in one direction down and then switching it and going all in direction the other way. It's whatever you want to do, and over time you'll form your own habits, break those habits, form new ones. It's always a learning process. So I'm going to continue on and try to make a good weave for you. As you Kolrose, you'll be gripping the piece a lot. You can see that my pencil lines are fading quite a bit. You can redraw those. Usually you don't have to. You can still see it well enough to finish. You know, the great thing about doing one free-handed is that sometimes a wicker weave isn't going to look perfect and crisp anyway. See, I messed the drawing up on that one, so I make sure that I don't mess up the actual Kolrosing pattern. Did I mess it up? Did I mess it up? I don't think I did. I think we're okay. Are we okay? We may just be. Let's continue on anyway. Because what else can you do? No point crying over a incorrect Kolrosing knife stroke. It's all good. Besides, we didn't mess it up. We got this. Okay. If you take a look at it in the light that you're working with and wiggled it around, At one angle you can see your pencil marks, but not so much your Kolrosing cuts. At another angle you can see your Kolrosing cuts, but not the pencil. So it's good to move it around in the light. And now we want to bring these lines right to the border, but not over the border. You want to bust through. You'll feel it just bust through gently. And it's very important to just use the tip. I'm not going to repeat that. And you know why. There we go. It's looking okay. I think we made it. We may have just pulled this off. Without any mistakes. Wonderful. And next we'll be adding some details for the weave. And I don't know what kind of details I'm going to use. I usually just look at it. I don't ever really have a plan. Let's just keep things organic. And simple. These little details are easy to mess up. For me, it can be very annoying to mess one up. So what constitutes a mess up? If I bring one of these little lines too close to another line, it could bust over, and then all I can see is it when I look at my spoon. That's all I can see. And when you get too close and it busts over, then when you put your pigment in later, that'll show up as a little black square instead of just a black line. See, there's nothing for me to grip on here. Tricky business, but I got it. And these little details over here in the corner, it's a nice little touch if you don't forget them. So the reason I add these little textures is to make it seem like it is bunched up, like the fiber is bunched up because something is actually running over the top of it. For this middle part, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run a line, draw a little line in the middle, and then a line on the side. There we go. We did one way, if you can see it. And we're going to do the same thing the other way. I find the other way is a bit trickier. I have less to hang on to. But it's good to do it all in one uniform way first, and then the other way. I like to start at the joining line, perpendicular, if that's the correct word, and then draw down from it. The right bisecting line. Am I getting my math terms correct? Probably not. That's okay. When Kolrosing, consistency key. I'll be so annoyed if I mess this up on camera. At the same time, it's completely fine. Looking away as well, if you hear a noise or see something shiny out of the corner of your eye, sometimes it can take you a moment to find where you were before. Easy to miss a spot when you're distracted. Right now, house is quiet. I can focus. Pretty good. So now what we will do is draw some extra little detail lines just like the other. A little bit trickier because I can't see as well. Okay. And to finish it off, also, although I never follow this advice, take a break. It gets tiring gripping the pencil and holding everything steady. Near the end here at this part is where you're most likely to make a mistake, so take a break. You're also focusing up close. It's the same thing with chip carving. You have to know when to take a break. It's tedious stuff. Alright. Detail on both directions of the weave are done. And now for those empty squares in between. Just to keep things simple, I'm going to draw 3 lines across the grain, starting at one corner and ending at the other corner, and then just equally using the remaining space. Like that. I'll do all the center ones first. Nice and simple. I've done all the center. I'll just take care of the ones on the side now. You sort of lose yourself in thought while Kolrosing. Sometimes the events of your day or life play out, and then sometimes they just melt away while you focus. Bracing with the thumb is definitely crucial. The other side now done. There's just a little piece of a square there. Like I said, hitting those little details can really make a difference though. Just checking the camera. Still have battery. Plenty of memory. We're almost in the clear. And here we are. We've now come to the end. Just a simple basket weave. Now for my maker's mark, which soon will change. Every time I have a child, I reinvent my maker's mark. I have 2 children now, 2 boys, and it encompasses runes of my own design and a mixture of elder futhark that encompass parts of their names or the meaning that I give to their names. So the third one will be fun to reinvent my maker's mark once more. There we have my maker's mark and a finished Kolrosing design. Let's erase some of those pencil marks. Not super important, and a lot of the times I forget, but it helps. It helps to keep things clean, although as I mentioned before, the oil and the coffee, which I will talk about in the next stage, usually wipe off most, if not all, of the pencil marks. Nice and clean. Are we focused? Are we focused? So for the final stage, I'm going to oil it and then rub a pigment on it and then burnish it. So I have tung oil, coffee, a smooth stone for burnishing, paper towel for the mess, and I'm going to use a piece of cardboard so that I don't get tung oil all over my desk. I usually do this by the sink in the kitchen because it can be quite messy. So first step is to oil it up. I usually just dab my middle finger, and I'll go ahead and rub the bowl first. The bowl is actually very important that you get a good amount of oil in it. You have to make sure that you get the edge of the bowl. That's where the end grain is, and it'll soak down into the spoon. And for me, since I do these style of bowls where it connects to the handle, I just go ahead and make sure that I get a generous amount at the end grain right there to soak down into the bowl. And give some love to the back of the bowl. You can already see how that's transforming it. And this one has really nice waves inside of the bowl due to a knot. I heard that a knot is a failed branch that the rest of the tree has swallowed. Random interesting tidbit as I oil this spoon. Equally important to get is the design. We want it to soak down into those Kolrosing cuts. So I'm going to apply a generous amount. I'm going to rub it, and then I'm also going to just lightly apply some more on top and the back, sides, and the top. More end grain on top, of course. Pretty good so far. That's it for the oil. And now for the coffee. This is just dry ground coffee. Comes pre-ground, and then I take it to a mortar and pestle. I put it in a blender. It'd be better to have an actual coffee grinder, which I don't have. I just want to crush it as fine as possible. You can even just take the pre-ground stuff. It works just fine. It creates sort of, when it combines with the oil, it creates sort of a mud-like texture anyway. So I'm going to sprinkle on top, and you'll start to see that it melts into my spoon. And I'm going to start rubbing it like this. And you'll begin to see our design show up. After one pass, you'll already see that the design is showing up a lot better. I like to make several passes. swirls, rubs. Of course, don't forget the maker's mark. I keep these fingers free from oil so that I don't get oil inside of my coffee. And I pinch it like an elegant pinch. Almost rubbed it with my clean finger. It's fun to go against your own advice when you're doing a tutorial video. There we go. We can already see that design is really showing up now. Okay. At this point, I'd usually just wipe the mud like that. If I did my job correctly, only the middle finger will be oily anyway. So now that that's there, I'm going to take this paper towel and wipe it all off. Trying to keep things as clean as possible so that I don't annoy anyone that I live with. And by that I mean my wife. You can already see that that has transformed quite a bit into a basket weave Kolrosing design, complete with a maker's mark. Don't forget to wipe the bowl. Alright. So we will grab another paper towel and one thing that I like to do at this point, as you can see the design looks good. I dropped my spoon. At this point I actually like to burnish it. Burnishing. So just to explain a little further, Kolrosing, the tip of the knife will actually part the wooden fibers, open them up, allowing you to put oil and pigment inside so that your design shows up. Burnishing it closes the fibers back up and locks the design in place permanently. That coffee gets trapped inside. It's already trapped inside, but the burnishing really brings it home. Seals it up and makes it look a bit more bold too. Don't forget about the maker's mark. Now, for the final trick that I do, I will rub more coffee into it. And it really makes it pop. Doing it over the coffee will reduce waste. One last rub will really make it show up. Now we'll just close up the coffee, set it aside, give everything one final wipe. Including my hands. Spoon bowl. Get our light. We'll set everything aside so that we can have a look at the spoon. We will give it one final burnish. Just a light burnish. Now let's have a final look at our finished piece. We started off with a plain wooden spoon. We added a Kolrosing design with the pencil. We used the business card as a crude ruler and quickly abandoned it. We have our folded cloth to keep everything clean and stable. We have our Kolrosing knife. We have our pigment coffee. We have our tung oil as well. So let's take a closer look at the spoon itself. Overall spoon. Hopefully it finds a good home, somebody to use it for years to come. There is the design, nothing too complicated, no mistakes, that's a plus. Border looks crisp. So you can see I didn't go over the line on the sides. It's easy to go over the lines when you're coming in too much of an angle. So that's good. It's not the most square because I just went freehand, but I think that's okay. So thanks for watching. I hope you found that to be informative. If Kolrosing is something you want to try for yourself, a basket weave design is an excellent first design to master. It's not so much about symmetry, it's more about mastering the technique, making clean lines, not going over your borders, and things like that. Try out different styles and just have some fun with it, do different things. I'll be writing an article to go along with this video. You can find that on my website, it's 9homeworlds.com. I'll also be making other kinds of videos such as this in the near future. If that interests you, go ahead and subscribe and check me out across my other social media. So once again, thanks for watching and happy Kolrosing.